Welcome to today's live stream. And we're talking about social media and how it's not working like it used to grow our businesses. And I did a little podcast on that yesterday, and I wanted to come back today and talk a little bit more about what I shared and on the podcast because I think it's really important to have this conversation for women building coaching, consulting, transformational businesses. And the way that we're marketing and the way that we've been taught to market, a lot of stuff that's happening in the coaching and online space is changing right now. And I have a feeling many of you can feel it as well. What I keep coming back to is that coaching is not going away. People still want support. They still want guidance. They still want to change their lives. We all want to grow, and they want to change their businesses, their relationship, their health, and the way they experience themselves. They really want to reach their goals and, live the life they want. And that's not going to disappear. If anything, it feels even more relevant now than ever. So what is changing, though, is the way that people want to be supported in the kind of environments that actually feel trustworthy to them. Because a lot of people got burned over the last, I think, like 5 years, I would say. There was a period in the online business world where the expert model emerged, and it held a lot of power. The person with the roadmap or the proven method or the exact framework. And I've watched that evolution happen in real time. I started the Entrepreneur Unleashed in 2004. And so I've seen a lot of shifts in this industry, big shifts. I remember when coaching felt more like life partnership or thought partnership, like really exploring your life and how do you feel about these different areas and what do you want to create? Even if I was coaching entrepreneurs, originally we always looked at their life, we still do, but that was a big determining factor on how they grew their business. What's the life that you want? And, it felt back then like coaches were helping you just get more clear and move forward. And they were a great place for you to learn more about yourself. And that shifted over into, as online marketing grew, here's how you do it. It became much more about the person with the secret than, the client, the person with the formula, the strategy, the thing that would get you there faster. If you did all the things quickly enough and followed closely enough. And there's nothing wrong with that type of structure. There's nothing wrong with leadership or expertise or people sharing frameworks that work. I still believe those things matter, but I also think we went a little far in that direction. What do you think? I also think that we're in a cultural moment where people don't want to outsource their self-trust so easily anymore. Yes, they want support, but they also want space to hear themselves, to consider what they're doing, to work it through. They want the wisdom that they're seeking, but not the dependency. Oh, you have to do this. They want perspective. New perspectives are always great without feeling like they have to modify who they are or what they know in order to fit in with this authority's perspective. And that shift changes not only how we serve our clients, but how we communicate with them, how we build trust, what kind of platforms you can actually hold, what kind of platforms you can be on that actually holds the depth of the work that so many of you are doing. Amazing work. And then we've been inundated with these marketing tactics and tools that we think we have to do or we were told we had to do in order to grow. A lot of the women that I work with are incredibly good at what they do. Their work is sophisticated. Their insights are earned, their wisdom, their perspective comes from lived experience. But they're struggling because they don't know what to say. They don't know how to explain who they are and what they do. And part of them, then that gets in our head, right? We begin to think maybe we don't have anything valuable to say because nobody's paying attention in this fast paced 30-second reel world. And the reason they're struggling is because so much of the online business world has trained them to package deep work into shallow formats. They're trying to communicate nuanced, transformational ideas inside platforms that reward speed, repetition, performance, simplification, controversy, polarity. And over time, that really creates friction. It can make brilliant women feel like their messaging is unclear. And then, of course, that's a pain point that people are selling. It's your message. But the real issue is that the container was not designed for the caliber of what they're trying to express. Not anymore, anyway. We used to be able to express things more deeply in the early days of social media, not now. This is one of the reasons that I care so much about this conversation, because when women start feeling like their marketing isn't working, they oftentimes make it mean something personal. They think, maybe I'm not visible enough. Maybe I'm not strategic enough. Maybe I need to be more compelling. Maybe I need to be more consistent. What if I post 10 times a day? And then they start looking for ways to get better at content, better at hooks, better at converting. And sometimes those skills are useful. We all need to have a sales strategy. But I think there's a deeper question worth asking. I think, is the problem really your message? Or is the problem that your message is being asked to live in a space that flattens it, that shortens it? Hi to those of you popping on. Hi, Tara. Good to see you. And that question matters because I do think social media is useful. I grew my business with social media. I started with in-person speaking, and then social media became a part of the way I grew. Because when I spoke, I invited people to come over to my social media. I was curating a community. We're going to talk more about that. So this is not a conversation about one platform being good and another one being bad. The real question is whether the platform supports the kind of relationship you're trying to build. Social media is very good at exposure. It's very good at quick impression and repeated touch points, which we hear are so important. But what it's not especially good at is holding complexity or allowing intimacy and supporting sustained attention, building real relationships. It's turned into interruption marketing. It's built for scrolling. It's built for novelty. And if your work depends on trust, on reflection, nuance, and the slower unfolding of someone who is becoming ready, who is considering, like, moving through their life, watching, what you're doing and maybe interested, that mismatch just isn't going to work. Because, transformation is not a one post process. It doesn't happen because someone saw a reel and saved it and shared it, or, someone went viral. That can be detrimental if the wrong people come into your community and start following you. And now you've got people who are doing all kinds of things other than what you intended your social media to do. Real change requires time. It requires enough contact for someone to begin to understand how you think, what you value, what you stand for. what kind of work you're actually doing, what kind of experience you'll help them create for themselves. And that's why community matters so much. Community gives people a place to experience your work differently, not just scroll past it, not just happen upon it and impulse buy, right? Not just save it and then never look at it again. A real community gives people a place to enter your world with intention, with connection, with something in common. It gives them a place to hear your voice over time. And when they do, they can start to understand your perspective and engage with you and the other people in the community. And that creates culture. It's a place where you can have standards, values, resonance, because you're listening and you're hearing and sharing with each other. And that's a very different thing than trying to collect leads at scale and hope enough of them buy. So if this is landing for you, I do want to mention that I'm going much deeper on Friday inside my paid Substack membership. It's called Curate a Community of Buyers. This training on Friday is how curating a community turns into clients for coaches and service professionals. And this is what I've done throughout my career. When I was speaking, I still speak, but when I was building my business through speaking, when I started creating Facebook groups, it was always the same. I was looking not to push out my marketing. I was looking to find the people and have conversations with them and actually help them get results, like giving them tips or ideas inside my community that they could implement. And then they would come back and want more. And many of them would hire me and many of them wouldn't. And that's okay. That's okay. So if you know that this is a shift that you're looking for, come join me on Friday. Today, I want to stay in the bigger, broader conversation, but Friday, we're going to go much more into the how. One of the things I think gets missed in conversations about community is that the strongest communities aren't built on tactics. They're built on identity. And inside, by the way, my curated community of buyers membership, I have a 30-day sprint called the Identity Shift. It has 4 trainings. I uploaded the trainings. We're going to do the sprint together in a couple of months, probably May. But when you build a community that is built on identity, then, and built on who you are, not tactics, then, the right people come. The people who want that, who share that similar desire to maybe take on that identity. Maybe they have never made the money they want or made the offers or whatever your community is about, and you're there as a model. These kind of communities are built on who you are, what you value, what you notice, what you normalize, what you stand for sure, and what kind of people feel at home in your world. It's like you're opening up your own, living room in your business. That's why I talk so much about the foundation of your brand, by the way. If you don't know what your room is built on, people can gather, but they won't necessarily connect and stay or buy. And that's another program that I have. It's called my E-Code, and I put it on here for you guys on my Substack to go through a 4-part video series that I did for my clients a couple of years ago for free. So if you haven't done that, it takes a little time. But once you understand your E-Code, which is E is entrepreneur and code is your core values, your opportunities, your design. I use life purpose numerology there. And your energy, which is, I use the Enneagram. When you look at how all of those work together, you know what you stand for. You know what your community is. It's the foundation. So back to community though. A community that converts is not just a group of people in a place. It's a room with a culture. It's a room with an identity, like I said, and it's a room where the right people feel seen. They might feel challenged because they're growing, right? We want that. They feel like they're expanding. They're clear about what they're part of. And that doesn't happen accidentally. I think that's where a lot of women underestimate their power. They assume they maybe need a massive audience or before they can really create something meaningful, or maybe they have to do things a certain way. Maybe if they're not doing things like the same way as others, or even the coaches they hired, somehow that's wrong. But it's not, it's you. I don't think that's true. Some of the most valuable communities are small. You don't need to have huge communities to make for your business to grow and for you to make the money you want. They're just clear, they're curated, and they have a strong point of view. And because of that, the right people come to you. So instead of you pushing out social media, you take a stand and you speak and you say what your community is for, and you gather people, you invite them inside, and the people come to you. You don't have to chase clients. And I think a lot of women are craving this. They're tired of performing online. They're tired of trying to keep up with the algorithm changes. And they're tired of creating content that disappears in a day, always being visible and not even being known. And that can create fatigue. And then, a lot of times we think, oh, I need a better strategy. But sometimes maybe we just need a better model, a model that supports your depth instead of constantly pushing towards breadth, a model where trust can develop over time and where buyers feel like they have a place to gather, check out what you're doing. They don't feel like they're going to be pressured or, 24 hours and this disappears. And then, maybe make a mistake and then they're unhappy. And it doesn't feel good if you're the coach that's bringing in the wrong clients. So that's what we're building inside Curated Community of Buyers. And that's why I care about this so much. I think the future really belongs to brands that feel more human, especially in this age of AI. And I am not opposed to AI. AI helps me organize and do all kinds of things, but we're still human. And, I read a statistic. I didn't research it to know for sure that it's true, but it's from a reputable person that I trust, that right now we're at 40% of the comments and the posts on Meta are AI, they're bots. And that by 2027, it's going up to 90%. Is that crazy? I don't know for sure if it's true, but I know it feels like it, to some degree. I don't know that the numbers are true, but I know that it's happening. And that's going to be more noise, more copying, more, it's kind of crazy, but here's what I know. The people who are real and are connected to who they are and what they do, they're going to be the clearest. They're going to be the ones with a distinct voice, a coherent point of view, and the courage to let their depth become part of their brand. That's what a Be Real brand is to me. Inside our membership, I have a private podcast. It's called the Be Real Business. Because for 22 years I've been in business, and my tagline has always been, be real, take a stand, change lives. And that's not going to change. Because, a Be Real brand, as I call it, it's not really about fonts and colors. It's about the experience people have in your world. And community gives that lived experience of your brand. It allows them to think with you, to walk with you over time. It lets them identify with your values, with your perspective, and the future your work is making possible for them. And when that happens, they're not just consuming content anymore. They're participating in something meaningful. And that's a very different type of buyer journey? Let me check the comments. Oh, they want space. Yes. Yes. Express more deeply. So if you're doing deep transmission work, I'll tell you, the short, flashy, noisy content is not, I mean, I'm going to say it's probably not for you. But when you have your community, your voice can be strong inside of there. And it may not, sometimes people are like, yeah, I have my community, but I'm not selling anything. It may not be that your offers are off. It's simply that your the design of your container needs to change. What are the standards? What is the identity? What are you really sharing? How do you speak about your work? Do you resonate with the people in your community? One thing we're doing, we start next week, is the spring sprint, and it is 30 days of little 2-minute prompts I give you to encourage you how to speak from the truth of who you are and give you ways to get started, ahas, a ton of insights is the word I'm going to use. I did it for the first time last year. There were 37 people who went through it, and the feedback was, wow, I feel more comfortable being seen. I don't feel like I have to do things a certain way. I'm just able to communicate with the people who I want to work with in a way that resonates with what they're looking for. So that starts in the membership on Monday. So if you're a person who wants to build a community, I really invite you to Friday's training. Again, it's inside my paid Substack membership. It's called Curate a Community of Buyers. And the training is how curating a community turns into clients for coaches and service professionals, transformational artists, really. And I'm going to be teaching more about how to put together your room, how you think about your room, your values, your culture, your people, how to curate this community that actually strengthens your business instead of giving you more people to manage and try to sort through. And you get a bunch of people and they aren't the right ones. I've been through that. And the clearer we get about our community and the more precise, the better it gets. The right people come and the right people buy. And then they bring other people and they get really good results. And then they're referring you. It's a really amazing way to set up your ecosystem. So I'm going to be talking about the deeper foundation underneath that, and which is you, right? Because so much of community building gets easier when you understand your own values, your energy, the way you naturally lead, and what you're here to gather people around, which is what I call your stand. So if that sounds like something you want to go deeper into, come join me on Friday. And whether you join me or not, the question I really want to leave you with today is, instead of asking how to get better at content, maybe the better question is, what do I stand for? And what kind of community am I actually here to build? That kind of question can change a lot if you really, think about it. So thank you for being here with me today. I'm so glad you were here. And if this resonated, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to keep going with me, join us Friday inside the membership. And as always, be real, take a stand, and change lives. Bye for now.